just watching to see when we are on.
Excellent.
Finally,
we soldiered through though. So thank you for everyone who is tuning in or watching this later. We've had a few technical challenges, so we are in a new setup, you'll see, with our lovely chairs.
Was not easy to get here. But we're here.
Yes, and thank you for persevering, and thank you very much to Lisa for making it all work today. So,
all right.
How are you, Jess? How has your past week or so been?
Well, I've been pretty, public about it. I've shared it on our stories through Instagram, but I have had a really crap week. I was hit with really intense anxiety, and I have a history of anxiety, pre-MS even, but when it presents itself, it's normally very short and sweet. I have a couple of hours and I feel really awful, I have a good sleep and I wake up okay, but it's carried on for 5 days, and I just feel sick, so violently sick, and I feel like I get these waves where I feel like I'm going to pass out, and I just feel like everything bad's going to happen. Lisa's phone went off and she was sleeping, and I was like, something bad's happened and I need to check that message even though it's not my phone. So up and she woke up and just like, what are you doing? I'm like, I just needed to check your phone to make sure it was nothing bad. I just am just freaking out over nothing, but I'm getting there.
Picking her hand up to unlock her phone with her.
Oh, I know the code. And I just needed to see, just by pressing it, that it was just a Facebook notification or just something. Just needed to just put myself out of that, but no.
Yeah, so for you it's that feeling of something's bad's going to happen, or that not being able to shake a feeling.
Is the word catastrophizing? Is that the word?
Yes.
Did I pronounce that right?
That sounds like them, yeah.
Just for no reason. Normally there's a trigger, and I know that something in particular has happened that set it off. But at this time, there's just nothing. That I just feel, for no reason, just sick to my stomach, like something really bad's going to happen, or that something really bad has just happened. But it just doesn't go away, and I managed to go to sleep with a little bit of help with medication, and then I wake up in the morning and that's worn off, and they're all over again. Still feels to wake up instantly feeling nauseous. I'm hoping that it will come to an end soon.
It's interesting because it's like depression or executive function issues. Obviously with MS you've got scars on your brains. On your brain, sorry, only one. And it has to impact on this. I was actually listening to a podcast on my way here about Huntington's disease, which sounds similar in a lot of ways to MS, and they were talking about that people who have Huntington's are much more likely to be depressed, anxious and paranoid because of where the damage is happening in their brain. And I know as a disease, it's a really scary disease. I can't imagine knowing that you have something that's always fatal, and that you might have found out after having children and possibly passing it on. At least with MS, it hopefully doesn't get passed on. But I find that it's hard to explain to people that I can be upset about something, or I can be worried or nerve anxious about something, but some days there isn't anything. There is nothing.
Yeah.
And I went through this the Christmas before last. I had just back-breaking severe anxiety attacks, and I've not had panic attack anxiety attacks like this, where I would be just sitting at work and suddenly would just be like a wave, and I was just having to, I will make a cup of tea and I will take some deep breaths and I will do all these things, and nothing made it stop, and I had to keep working with this side dish of just severe anxiety, and then it would sort of peter off. And I haven't had that since, and nothing triggered it, nothing changed, nothing helped it at the time as well. So it's not just for me, it's not leading up to a meeting or an appointment, it's not leading up to an MRI. I'm quite calm about most things, but yeah, the anxiety Yeah.
It's really is debilitating. Like it stops you from leaving the house, and like I was to the point where I was struggling to actually have conversations with people, like even, you know, my family. I knew, a bit like MS, sometimes I do that anyway, you know, I know what I want to say, but I can't. This is different. It's just, I just can't speak because my brain is just not able to think about anything apart from everything bad that's going to happen. But I don't know what that bad thing is. It's totally bizarre. But yeah. So that was my week.
And it's organic as well. And it's not even that you can go, oh, it's because I've got a test or because I nearly got hit by a bus or something, and you're having that. Yeah.
There's a reason for it. But I think I was reading, like, is it linked to MS in any way? I think there's two parts of the brain that control your emotions. One part that forms the emotional response, and then the other part that helps you to control that emotion and regulate that emotion. So I wonder whether there's something going on with my control area, and it's something has said, this is how you feel at the moment, but I'm not able to use that control of it's okay. Because sometimes I sit here and go, it's okay. Like this, and I'm telling myself there's nothing to be upset about, but it's just there. So I've got to go through those MRI scans and really put them apart. I love doing that.
It does take us down rabbit holes though sometimes when I'm having a good run of things, but I'm still struggling with just one thing. And at the moment for me, I've had a really good week. I've got energy at both ends of my to-do list are being done, and I've been working full time, and I exercised and I've socialised and I've done all of these things. I'm just waiting for it to, like, the other shoe to drop. But I still cannot remember walking from one end of the house to the other. What did I come down here for? I can do things. It's just, but that's not yet come back online. So yeah, it's almost like different bits of my brain are still. Yeah.
You can have this part.
Yeah.
But we're just going to borrow this one. We won't give it to you all at once.
No, there's always a trade-off, isn't it? If you've got 5, you can have like 3 or 4 that are going well, but 2 of them you can't. You can choose which ones they are. But
would you like to have some energy today, or would you like to be able to speak today? Which one? You can choose.
You can choose one.
Yeah. But really, we don't get to choose.
No. Or maybe you can have half of one and a dot of the other, and that's, I think, even worse sometimes. But yeah, no, I've had a good week. I went out last weekend for the Fringe. I did 2 shows in one day. I did parkrun as well, and I've had a really good week. Partly, I think, because I knew I was on holidays this week, so even if I pushed myself, I could still...
There was an end.
Yeah, I could still... And it doesn't matter how much I do on any one given day, because I've still got another 8 days or 9 days of holidays, so it's been a good week. And I've got... Definitely feeling the change in the season here. It's cooler in the morning, and I'm feeling a lot perkier in the afternoon because it's not hot.
It's nice, isn't it?
It's nice.
I haven't actually had time to realise how nice that's been, but it has been nice.
Yeah, autumn's my favourite season, so I'm enjoying it at the moment. But it's definitely one of those weeks that I haven't had such a pleasant week through COVID of being around people enough, and I feel like I've caught up with everyone in the past 3 or 4 months that I haven't seen for most of 2020, so it's been good.
That's good. That's good. Now, I think we mentioned that we wanted to talk a little bit about pain, because pain is something that I think everybody knows at the end of the day what pain is like, but in what kind of pain people experience is different for everybody, and what people's thresholds as well are when it comes to tolerating that pain. I shared something this week on our page about understanding what, when you live with a pain for a really long period of time, people who have chronic pain, it becomes a part of your life, and it becomes who you are, and you almost don't realise it's there until it's really bad. I don't know about you, but for me, I have a lot of chronic pain, so when I do, I think if somebody else was to feel it for half an hour, they'd be like, oh, this is not cool. But at that point, I'm like, no, this is good.
Yeah.
When I'm saying I can't do that, or no, I'm in so much pain, I need to take something, that's when it's unbearable. It's really bad. So I think people need to understand the difference between pain, acute pain, and chronic pain, because they're two very different things.
I think also if you've got any control over the pain, that gives you some kind of coping mechanism itself. Like if it is chronic pain, then for me, because I do have chronic pain because I have had a shoulder reconstruction, and it's never going to be 100%. It's always unpleasant at some level, but you're right. For me, it's just part of my existence, and I have a sore finger that got broken. It's never ever come good, and that's my. If the weather's changing, I know it because my finger hurts. But
it's bizarre, isn't it?
It is. It's the old tiny. I've just got one finger that bothers me. But yeah, pain is different. If I had what's called a quinsy a few years ago, and you've never heard of it. It sounds like something out of like the 1800s, but it's actually, that's what it's called. It's where you get really severe tonsillitis and it gets an abscess between your tonsils and the wall of your throat and your neck, and it swells and it can kill you because it can block off your airway and being able to swallow. So it's actually like the life-threatening complication you can have from a really simple infection. I'd never heard of it. I just thought I had really bad tonsillitis, and I'd gone to the doctors and I'd had antibiotics and had gone to work and had needed to take codeine and was lying down between classes, and someone came and said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I actually don't think I am because I can't swallow properly." And I ended up in hospital, and the medication had worn off by that stage, and I was like, my heart rate was through the roof. I was really, really sick, and they're like, "Well, what's your pain out of 10?" And I'm like, it's like 11 at the moment. I couldn't actually talk either, and I'm like 1, 11. And I was able to write, and I said, I run half marathons for fun, but that's like, that hurts, but this is like off the charts painful. And so keep in mind, I had something wrong with my throat, couldn't swallow, couldn't talk. They gave me 2 Panadol to take. I was like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do with these?
You might as well give me a biscuit.
That's right, a really dry biscuit.
Yeah.
So that kind of, it's difficult to even quantify. I actually found your list really good, because like the lower ones were, I can do my day-to-day stuff, but I can't go out for dinner, or I'm going to order groceries online, or we're getting takeaway, because I know by the end of the day I'm not going to be able to do this, because I personally find it very draining, very tiring to be in pain, and if it's more pain, it's more tiring. You find that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
When I have pain, mostly it's in my legs, so that kind of ties in pretty well with my fatigue. I suppose I notice both of them heighten at the same time, whether or not, the fact that I'm in pain triggers my body to, kick up some fatigue. I don't know, or the other way around.
What is fatigue? Like, do you know what?
People talk about fatigue, but I think there's a difference between, there's fatigue. Everybody can feel fatigued when they're just tired, they're run down, they've done a lot, they need to crash out, have a good sleep and come good. But the fatigue that I experience as a part of MS, and I don't know whether it's the same. I mean, I can kind of, we can have conversations about it, and a lot of people seem to have the same experience with MS. But for me, it's this feeling, this heaviness that I can't for me to get up and move a few meters, I'm literally planning in my head how I'm going to do that. How am I going to get over there? I know that I need to, but I have to sit there and give myself a little pep talk. All right, just in 3 seconds, you're going to push yourself up and you're going to walk. And by the time I get there, I'm like, oh, I need to sit back down again, and it's just, it stops me from being able to think straight, stops me from being able to get my words out. If I'm reading something, and it's terrible when it hits me when I'm doing a uni assignment, because if I'm trying to read, I'll read a line and it's gone. I'll have to go back and read it again. So there's just no point in me reading it, because I'm just not able to absorb anything because I'm that fatigued. So it's like an emotional and a physical fatigue. Do you feel that when you...
For me, certainly, I know there's a difference between being tired when I know having some kind of refresher will help. Having a cup of coffee, having caffeine, eating something, getting some fresh air, having a drink, like all of those things, or having a nap. And then I'm refreshed and I'll get back onto it. And fatigue, like the worst days for me are when I wake up and just that wave of fatigue. And like on one hand I'm well rested, but by the same token I'm so fatigued that the idea of getting out of my pyjamas is rather upsetting, because for me it means that I have to, like I'm breaking down every single, rather than just go and get dressed for the day, it's literally I'm going to go from the bedroom to the bathroom and I'm going to get my tablets and I'm going to get a glass of water, and that's what my brain feels like. And then instead of it just being like this tiny amount, it's suddenly this huge pyramid of, and that's the steps that's the steps, and it's broken down. Like making a coffee is not just one, like I'm making a coffee, it's like every single step. And if I look at it, I think I can't do, I know I'm going to have to go and do this thing, but for me it's that, like the granularity, like how focused I am on, I can do a whole thing, or I can do bits of it, and then I have to break it down and do bits of it and then have a break. But everyone I think does feel fatigue. Everyone would know what it feels like if you've driven a long way, or you've had a long day at work and then have to go out for a meeting, or you're studying a lot. I find studying quite tiring now, but I also have no control over it. Like some days I wake up and I'm like, it's a good day, and I suddenly by 1 hour later I'm like, oh, it's not a good day.
And you can drink all the coffees in the world. And
then
it doesn't
jittery and anxious as well as fatigued.
I did that yesterday. I was so tired, but I needed to go out of the house. So I was like, right. So I drank, lots of coffee. And then I hadn't made a mistake. I had an energy drink. I was just like, and I was anxious. So I'm like, now I just feel even more anxious. Now I think I'm having a heart attack.
Yeah. And your heart rate's like,
and
you're like, nope, still tired.
Yeah.
It's very personal. I think pain is one of those things that our culture is very much take some Panadol, take some aspirin, take whatever works for you, and go and have a nap and you'll be fine. And it's really hard with chronic pain.
It's a whole different ballgame.
It's a whole different ballgame. And some days, like MS is just, it makes every single thing I've ever hurt on my body, from, an ankle I broke when I was a kid, or, that knee I grazed when I was in year 2 and needed stitches, that kind of level of injury from a million years ago. Every single bit of me hurts. And other days I'm like, that's nothing today. And so I find those scales where it's like on 0 is happy and 10 is you've broken a leg. And I'm like, well, a broken leg sounds better than what I'm doing at the moment. If that's your worst. Yeah.
But do you experience a regular kind of pain that pops up, whether you're having a flare of symptoms that's for you?
For me, I have the more active part of the disease that I have is a patch from above C3 to below C4, which is right at the top of your neck. And it's not a very big patch, but it's the dermatomes and the nerves and everything that look after your hands. And mine's, it's always going to be damaged. Our bodies can't yet repair it. There may be medications at some point in the future. But for now, it just is what it is. But for me, that means it's always that Wolverine feeling of just like my bones ache, my bones hurt, and it doesn't matter. And you can see me sitting here today rubbing my hands because they're quite sore at the moment. And some days it's my hands as well. It's always the bones, but sometimes it's like the actual hands as well as. And nothing makes it better. I often get edema as well, so my left arm will get quite swollen, so I have to be careful not to wear rings on that finger because my hand will just blow up. So I have a compression that I wear. I find that quite good actually, wearing the compression, but it's only one hand, so it always looks weird that I've got one glove on. And that and I've been dealing with for the past couple of months really bad leg pain as well, and that's sort of just from my knees down.
Yeah.
And they feel very heavy, and that again is that bone deep pain. It's not a sore muscle, it's not I've slept funny on my back's a bit unhappy, that kind of thing. This is it's very different, and it's exhausting. So new pain for me I have found, because I was very used to my hands, because it's it's been a couple of years now, you kind of just get used to it. My legs hurting, that's been really distracting and really painful. So so
for you, do any pain medications like taking, so I think some pain, like I know nerve related pain, Panadol, Nurofen and codeine and narcotics don't actually work on those receptors, so there's different medications. Is there anything that helps you?
So I was started on Lyrica for my hands when I was first diagnosed, and it caused me a lot of side effects. It caused me to put on an amazing amount of weight in a very short length of time, and that was really unpleasant, but it also just made me feel like I had really severe PMS all the time. I was really, really grumpy and really short with people, and didn't find anything funny either. And I don't have the wildest sense of humour in the first place, but other people were like, wow, you got out of bed on the wrong side of the cage this morning, didn't you? And it just sucked the joy out of life. And I wasn't sleeping, like I was really restless sleeping as well, which I actually thought was because my legs were so sore that I was restless, but it didn't do a whole lot for the pain either. And the side effects didn't pass. I'm happy to ride them out for a little while if they wear off, but these weren't, and I was like, it's not actually worth the trade-off. Like if it was a magic pill, I would probably put up with quite a lot more. So I stopped that. And I hear a lot of people say that about Lyrica, that the benefits do not outweigh how they feel. Some people have really bad reactions to it, and for some people it works. It's used for a reason. But I wasn't, and I did try it again with my leg pain, and it just made me feel the same way. I'm like, I'm really sure it's the drug.
It's not for you.
I'm pretty sure it's not just my perception of it. I don't think it's placebo. I've kind of forgotten how it made me feel.
Do you think it's because I had a really terrible experience on Lyrica myself as well, but it does work for a lot of people, and I often read on a lot of different forums that people swear by Lyrica, that they feel great, it's changed their life, and that's really good that worked for them. But I wonder whether, because it's also an antidepressant, so the fact that it's working on those receptors, I wonder whether that, because when I took Lyrica, I also felt like I was just walking around and I had no feeling, like I didn't feel sad, but I also wasn't having those highs. And it wasn't that I didn't look at my children and feel love towards them. I still felt that, but I just wasn't excited about anything. I wasn't enthusiastic about anything, and I was just like numb, emotionally numb. And that's when I said to my doctor, I am just walking around. I've got no feeling. Like I just feel like I can't even make myself think something's funny.
I think I've heard people describe it as similar to what it was like being lobotomized, because they basically did something to your frontal lobe, and that was how people were. They were just like zombies, and I was like, that's how I feel. Like I'm not happy, I'm not sad, I'm not angry, but I'm not anything. I need to be able to feel something, and it was not a pleasant place at all. Whether or not, I don't know whether it would have faded after this. Like I was on it for a little bit, so now I'm on amitriptyline, which is also an antidepressant at higher doses. So I'm on a very low dose, which is Endep. Is the brand name, but amitriptyline is the drug, and it's better than it was, and I'm not having any side effects that I've noticed.
That's good.
So I'm happy with that trade-off for the moment. I've been told it's like most antidepressants that you would take if you were depressed or anxious. It does take 6 to 8 weeks to work fully. And I've only been on it for 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. Yeah, so
it's a good sign though.
The side effect is that it makes me sleepy, but I take it at night. So I'm not sleepy during the day, but I definitely know that it's worn off in the afternoon because the pain starts coming back. So it's not perfect, but if I go up a higher dose, it would be twice a day, and then I'm running the risk of being sleepy during the day. So it's that trade-off. I think a lot of the medications are on, there's a lot of trade-offs, and you have to go, well, if I'm on this, I can't do this.
Yeah.
For me, Panadol doesn't do, like if I twist my ankle or cut my arm and I've got a burn or something, then Panadol helps that kind of pain, but not this pain.
People say, taking some Panadol, and I go, I'm like, no, because it doesn't actually do anything for me. It just doesn't, unless it's like a really mild headache.
Yeah.
But even then, most of the time, I don't know what it is about Panadols. I think I might have built this tolerance. I've had to take Panadol and Nurofen for pretty much daily for the last decade plus. So I just think I've just built this tolerance to it, and it just doesn't really do a great deal.
I'm the same. Paracetamol doesn't do a whole lot for me, so certainly not for this kind of pain. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear, because we did touch on it last time about asking people who are listening to this and watching what their MS hug experience was, which I found really interesting, because I was like, I don't know actually what people feel. So it'd be interesting to hear what other people do. I know some people don't have pain as part of it because of where their lesions are, and it's like, well, that's really interesting. Is it a hallmark of having spinal lesions, or a hallmark of having them in a particular part of your brain that deals with the pain signals, or is it, I don't know.
I did ask my GP about it, but because I was curious, because I think as I mentioned last time that I was having this chest pain, that I questioned it could be this MS hug, but where it would depend on lesion placement, because I thought it would have to be a spinal lesion. I don't have any. But she said she had never heard of the MS hug. She's going to research and get back to me. So we'll see. But I don't, But just reading, if anybody does have, Karen says that coffee makes her sleep. To be honest, Karen, coffee doesn't do anything for me, so I can have a coffee not long before bed and I'll still have a,
I may have been eating tiramisu in the bath the other night, and then
that sounds fun.
It was awesome. It's my first night of my holidays, so I was eating tiramisu, and then I thought, oh, hang on, there's a lot of coffee in this. This was like 9 o'clock at night, and I got up, brushed my teeth, went to bed, slept. It doesn't, I can apparently drink coffee. I have a friend who actually has been diagnosed with MS, and she was the same. She's like 6 to 8 coffees a day, and I still feel severely fatigued. And I said, you really need to go and have a chat with your GP about that, because 6 to 8 coffees should be making you like not sleep at all. That's a lot of coffee. So for her, it was actually one of the things that led her to being diagnosed. So
Karen's also explained that the MS hug was like 3 wetsuits, each a smaller size than the previous layer, all zipped up tight. Absolutely horrid and painful. That sounds really awful.
Oh my goodness.
That's not that's not the pain that I get. So, but that's a really, really good way of describing it, because I can feel that with your description. So
thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
I've heard people say it's like having a belt that has been pulled super tight, and you can feel that pressure.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I hate wearing a bra. Everything feels really tight, so I'm like, I wasn't meant to be in the day where I needed to be in this.
The 70s.
The 70s where I could just be free. But that's cool. I'll deal with it in public if I have to. But that sounds a lot worse than just wearing a really uncomfortable bra.
Yeah, that sounds pretty much something that you would go and see someone about. I don't think.
Sure.
Yeah, because I was saying like it feels like I do get like a tight squeezy feeling, but nothing that I would be able to describe like Karen has there.
Do you, I wonder, Karen, if you're able to answer, do you know whether the MS hug is related to lesion placement in the spine or in that area? Like if you happen to know, from the lower hips to the neck. So happy it only lasted a week during a relapse. So you felt it from your lower hips up to your neck, that feeling of being squeezed with 3 tight wetsuits on. Wow. I bet you felt like you couldn't breathe. That would be really horrible.
That sounds. That's a big area to feel it across. I didn't realise. Like, I've heard people talk about like just a belt.
Yeah, I was picturing like this space.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Karen. We needed that answer. But yeah, I really want to find out what causes the MS hug. Is it a specific lesion placement? Brain, spine? I'd be really interested to know that.
Yeah.
So we'll do some more research. I tried to do some research. I couldn't find an answer, so I might ask my neurologist when I see her.
I am seeing mine on Wednesday this week. I might ask her. It's interesting you mentioned research, because I can find a lot of research about important biomechanical, biomedical, neurology, neurophysiology, neuropsychology, all of those kinds of things, neuroimmunology, all the crossovers and the intersections. But is there a research paper on what the MS hug is? Not that I can find. You know, and people who say, oh, it doesn't cause pain, it's like, the lived experience of a lot of people with MS is that it's not painful like metastatic bone cancer or something, like inherently where there's an injury to something that hurts. From what I read, and you may have found other stuff, but it's often displaced as well, and you'll get a pain in your back, but it ends up actually being because you've got tight muscles in your neck.
Referred pain.
And it's just your pain, like you'll have spastic muscles in your upper arm, but it'll be in your mid-back, because everything's connected. But I definitely, maybe it's just the way I'm looking, but it's finding research on the really lived experience. It's there's lots of research that's sponsored and raised money for the causes and hopefully cures for it, but I don't see a lot of the lived experience kind of research about what's your experience of.
To do some more looking. It's got to be somewhere. It's got to be somewhere. But Karen does have C2 to 4 lesions, so maybe it does have something to do with that, but we'll keep researching. But that's really, really awesome information from Karen, so thank you. But if you want to, we'll just chat a little bit more about our experiences with pain, but while we're doing that, let us know in the comments if you experience chronic pain and what that's like for you, and if you have any questions surrounding that. Somebody watching or us may be able to sort of have some kind of advice for you, so definitely please drop it in the comments.
So you touched on whether painkillers work. For me, no, they're not really painkillers. Amitriptyline doesn't work like that. Does something for brain chemistry. What other things do you or would you do for pain management?
For pain, so for me, I have explored just about every pain drug that there was. I have pain that no one's really been able to tell me where that pain is coming from. Really close. I have mentioned over the last couple of podcasts that I experience leg pain, arm pain, back pain, chest pain. So really I have pain. But weren't really sure where that was coming from. I thought it was my MS drug, and I was willing to stay on that drug and live with the pain because it was keeping my MS stable, but I also wasn't confident that that's what it was. I have had an ultrasound this week to have a little look at my reproductive areas and have a look at pelvic pain and whether that's causing the pain. And I do have endometriosis, adenomyosis, and polycystic ovarian syndrome happening all in there. And they're another form of chronic pain and chronic medical conditions, so just to add to having MS. So I think that my pain is likely to do with that. So did the gynecologist that I spoke to, said that it's definitely highly possible. Both of my ovaries are now fused together with endometriosis, so they're actually stuck together and pulling towards each other, but they're also attached to the back of my uterus. So when I move and stretch my arms, roll over in bed, stretch up high, do things, it's actually pulling on my ovaries and ripping from my uterus. So it's really, really painful. And that can cause pain in my back, in my stomach, in my legs. I mean, it refers everywhere because it's kind of working a little bit like nerve pain. And then if I've got something placed on a nerve, it's going to shoot that pain somewhere. So apparently having adenomyosis. So endometriosis is, if there are people watching who have endometriosis, you'll probably understand. But endometriosis is extremely common. And it's when a woman has her menstrual cycle, the blood goes backwards and up in through the tubes and filters back out into the abdominal cavity, grows and attaches on, you know, the uterus, on your tubes, on your bladder. It can be anywhere. People have found it in their lungs, on their diaphragm. They have found it absolutely everywhere. So it could be the answer to all of my pain. It is very possible. But adenomyosis is the lining of the inside of your uterus becomes like the scar tissue, and it can cause leg pain. So that might be the issue, and so I'm glad I didn't come off of my MS drug because I had seen multiple doctors and asked them time and time again, could it be this, could it be this, I have a feeling it's this, and they said no, don't think so, try these drugs. So long story short, I tried all the different drugs, Panadol, Panadine for Voltaren, all of those starting ones, Endone, you know, oxycodone. It helped, but I think what it helped with was just to help me to sleep. So it didn't really take away the pain. It just sort of knocked me out enough that I could sleep through the pain for most of it. I don't want to be on narcotics for the rest of my life, or even really at all, because they just make you feel awful. I tried Lyrica. For me, I had a really terrible experience on Lyrica. I went on quite a low dose to start with, and also felt like I had no personality. I was numb, emotionally numb, like we talked about before. But then coming off of that drug, I withdrew really bad, and I was on 25 milligram. Most people are on a 75, 100 plus. So 25, they thought you're not going to have any issues withdrawing. I still had to break the capsules, half that, and come off of it for a week. When I did, it just shut my whole central nervous system down. So I had tremors, so my hands and my whole body were like this, and my voice was like that, and I was speaking like this, and I couldn't get words out, and it was terrifying. I couldn't speak what I was thinking. I couldn't really think at all. I had no control over my body at all, and it was so awful. Probably one of the worst experiences I've had. Full stop. Got off of that eventually. Came good once it was completely out of my system. Tried Endep, which you were talking about before, which is working for you, which is really good. For me, I went on a really low dose, and within a few days I was having really bad heart palpitations. Felt the anxiety thing because I could feel my heartbeat through my chest, through my neck, and you know, I could feel everything going. So I also came off of that. Then I had a pain specialist talking about ketamine infusions and all of these really heavy pain drugs that I don't feel comfortable being on those drugs. I'm a parent to 2 children, one of which very small. You know, there's no way I'm going to be able to walk around zonked out on narcotics with a 2-year-old. It's just not possible for me to be able to do that. And I didn't want that either, because it made me feel like I wasn't myself. So I went and saw a GP who has alternative views, and I was prescribed medicinal cannabis oil. That has changed everything for me. It has, it is legal, which is really nice, because people, I believe, were, you know, going down that route illegally because they knew it would work, and it was known that it works wonders for pain. But you also don't want to go down the illegal route. You shouldn't have to. So now it's been legalized. That was really nice, and she was a brilliant doctor. She literally had like about 25 folders of all the different types you could have, and all, you know, how they work, and she was really knowledgeable. So I started an oil, very expensive though. It's nearly $300 just for the one bottle. But it has lasted me quite some months, which is really good. But that has changed everything. I noticed the first dose that I had, I actually cried. I sat on the couch and I felt it come over me, and it wasn't like, you don't get a high, so it's not like having, if you've ever had recreational marijuana, it's very, very different. So you're not walking around all zonked out and, you know, hungry and all of those things. you don't get the munchies, and it's not like that. Not that I would know what that's like. But anyway, the oil just made me feel so much clarity. So I could think, and I felt creative, and it was like I didn't realize that I wasn't myself. So something was like, my mood maybe I was anxious or slightly depressed, and at that point, and hadn't realized that it's how I'd been living for such a long time. And until the oil had taken over, that I felt like myself for the first time in years. I don't even remember the last time I felt like that, but I didn't realize that's how I would feel. It was quite overwhelming. So that has changed my emotions until this week. I haven't had a great deal of problems with anxiety or depression since having the oil, but it also helped with my pain. So I noticed a huge reduction, although I still get it. It just means that I'm not all day, every day, wearing me down, struggling to move around, moaning and whinging about my pain 24/7. I was actually able to function, take the oil at night time, so it helps me sleep. It helps with my pain instantly, like within probably 10 minutes of having the oil. And then through to the next day, it must cover me until, you know, I start to notice pain coming back afternoon, and it starts to wear me down again, and I have oil that night, and it's good. So it has changed everything, and there's no side effects at all. I'm not having heart palpitations or issues with my central nervous system or negative mood changes. It's been nothing but positive, and I'm so happy that it's finally legal. It just needs to be on the PBS, so it's not costing us $300 a bottle.
Yeah, so you're on quite a small dose then, if your bottle's lasting?
Yeah, so I use, so you can get CBD, and then you can obviously get THC. THC is what really works on pain. So I was recommended to have a 50-50 blend of both CBD and THC. It's not, like I mentioned before, it doesn't give me a high, and it doesn't stop me from functioning at all. So I have 0.5 of a meal at night time, so just once a day, which is really not much at all. At first I didn't get a whole heap of, it wasn't as effective because I was just swallowing it, but then I realised I had to put it under my tongue and let it absorb under my tongue, and it's the first time I did that, I was like, yep, that's how I'm supposed to take it, and now I feel even better.
Yeah, I have also been trialing it because it's legal in Australia now, and I was looking for some more ideas. I've done acupuncture, I've done yoga, I've done meditation, I've done CBT, I've done pain management, pacing, I've done exercise. I've done, like, if there's a way of managing the pain over the past couple of years, and I think everyone does go through going, well, what's the worst that can happen? Nothing. And I go into, if someone says, oh, have you tried whatever is the latest thing, you know, adult colouring books, or I actually bought myself a dot to dot the other day, because I haven't done dot to dot since I was a kid. I found an adult, it's not adult, it's grown up, big numbers kind of adult, and so I'm looking forward to doing that. And you know, it's mindfulness meditation, and I do all of those things at times, but the pain is still there, and I think just having anything that can dial it back for me, because like you said, every day you've got this pain, and you have to deal with the rest of the world. You have to deal with a heavy day at work, or you have to deal with someone dropping a pot on your foot, and you get that extra pain, or you kick your toe. You're like, oh my goodness, that hurts on top of it already, this background of stuff. And for me, I find the same thing, that taking it means that everything is just dialed down, that it just turns the volume down on it. It doesn't go away, I ran out a week ago, and the place that I get it from is actually a compounding pharmacy, and they were affected by the floods in New South Wales, and so they weren't able to. It hasn't been posted to me as yet, which is fine. I completely understand. But I've been without it for nearly 2 weeks now, and oh my goodness me, I do notice that in the afternoon I just don't have as much cope. I don't have as much room in my backpack to do and to also carry on. It makes me really short-tempered and really cranky, and I just want to sloth and just want to wear comfy clothes and lie on the couch. And I've got 2 young kids. I can't do that either. I work full time, and juggling everything, I find that it takes up a lot of my brain's operating bandwidth as well. And I just, it's the afternoon, and I have to pay bills and work out, what to do, like something that I have to work through.
It's too much.
Like, probably not today. Probably I might get up in the morning and do it, because I just don't have everything's like flying around, and I just can't keep track of everything. It's distracting, and it affects my quality of life.
Yep.
But it's hard because having a massage doesn't fix it. It's not like if I've gone hard at the gym and then go and have a massage and it feels better afterwards. It doesn't do that. I do find if I don't do the things every couple of weeks, I can get a massage once a month, and if I don't do that, I don't cope as well for the next month. It doesn't necessarily help, but if I don't do it, it certainly hinders. Yeah, so I think everyone needs to be open to different modalities, and for some people it is sound therapy. For other people it might be taking up a new hobby to distract themselves, or they go and break plates because they're angry at their pain, and all of those kinds of things. Absolutely valid. Get a good psychologist. But I think what's come out of this is drugs don't seem to work. I don't have anything. If I'm having a bad pain day, I just have to put up with it and cope with it. But CBD, THC, because I'm the same. I do a 1-to-1. It's still a fairly low amount. If it stops working, I can get higher concentrations of it, but it's still that 1-to-1 ratio. So yeah, it's interesting. In the US, in parts of the US, you can get it as a vape, in a vaporizer, which is immediately available because it does have to go into your system to be able. But do I want superheated volatile chemicals? I'm not sure. Yeah, it's hard though, because 5 years ago people were growing a plant in their backyard and they were making edibles because, but that's not controlled, it's illegal, it's dangerous, it's possibly dangerous. You never know what you're getting batch to batch. So
at least you can communicate with your healthcare team to say, I am on medicinal cannabis and that's okay. And they go, okay. But I think that you'd find that a lot of people that were having to do that around the system were not able to be honest with their medical team, and that's an issue. It's really important to be able to be completely open and honest with them. And Karen asked if you can still drive taking the CBD oil. CBD, there's a thing here. So the way that I was explained it, CBD oil, that's fine. If you have THC in it, that is what will be picked up if you are drug tested. So technically, no. Everybody's body will sort of have a different tolerance to THC and how quickly it lasts and shows up in your system. The way that the doctor explained it to me was go to the chemist or order online a cheap packet of drug testing strips, have your dose. Every half an hour, test. If it's positive, then you can't drive. And it will usually be the same response every time you take it if you have the same dose at the same time. So, I know that if I can have my oil, that within 2 hours, I am okay to drive and it won't pick up on the drug test machine. So I'm absolutely fine to drive. In 2 hours, if I have mine at night time, doesn't bother me anyway, unless there was some major emergency I needed to drive. It doesn't impair my responsiveness. I could confidently get in the car and drive. I have no hesitations over that.
And that's just for context, so that's in South Australia.
Yeah.
We have very strict rules in South Australia about marijuana consumption and driving, and it's, if you are found to have THC in your system at all, that's when it is illegal. So what Jess is talking about there doesn't apply in other states. It is a particular thing in South Australia. It's actually a real grey area when I was looking into it, because I had the same concerns. I was like, I'll just do CBD because you can get CBD by itself, but it's not as effective from the research for pain. It's effective for other types. There's lots of research about people who have cancer, in particular metastatic cancer, where they've got lots and lots of pain, and that's where most of the research sits with CBD and THC. So, just keep in mind that's in South Australia. I'm the same. I'll take it at night, because if it's an emergency and I have to drive, I don't feel...
You got school, I don't know about you, school drops and stuff.
But to be honest, by that stage, I'm in a lot of pain, I'm distracted anyway. If anything, it takes it down a notch. And I'm not justifying drug use or anything like that, but I don't feel impaired in any way, but I'm not about to be a test person for it. And best case scenario is, it'll be a good 10, 12 hours later before I'm doing the school run, or I'm driving myself to work, and
by then,
I don't feel anything, even if I've taken it and then I've ended up staying up to watch a movie or to, have a chat. But it is very personal. I know some people who will not be able to access it because it's eye-wateringly expensive. It's
It's not accessible.
It's like $180, and my bottle lasted 10 weeks. And when you're looking at, that's $2 a day. And it's a lot of money, and there's it's something I will buy again, because for me it was worth it. But I can totally understand, particularly if you're needing higher concentrations, whether you've already got a tolerance to THC and CBD from previous use of marijuana, or whether you just have really fast metabolism and you need to have it more than once a day to be able to get that effect. Because I'm on 0.4 of a mil, which is 40 drops, I think works out to be 15. It's drops, it's not like squirts, and it's only a bottle. Actually, I was going to bring one of them, because my bottle's about yay big, and it's blue glass or brown glass, so that the light doesn't get in to break things down. But it's not accessible. I can't claim it on my health insurance. We have extras cover for pharmaceuticals, but it's not covered under that.
I can.
You can, however,
part of it, not all of it. There's a limit.
Okay, I can claim the compounding costs of it, which is because it's always compounded by a chemist or a dispensary, but not the actual drug part of it. So I can claim, I shouldn't say I can't claim very much of it. There's certainly nowhere near enough to make the difference between yes, I would buy it, or no, I wouldn't buy it. And it's supposed to be coming down to a Schedule 4, which means it'll be over the counter and you'll be able to buy it at a pharmacy. It's also not it's not like paracetamol is paracetamol. How you buy it, what shape you buy it in, whether it's a fast or a slow, whether it's a tablet or a capsule, it's still the same drug on the inside. CBD, THC, it's different companies have, there's 100 and something on the TGA list. If you are really bored, you can go and look it up. And different companies have different profiles of the the terpenes and the other molecules that sit around it as well. But I've asked the chemist this time whether they can put some mint flavour in it, because unfortunately the one I've got tastes like grass. There's no covering. Does yours taste like?
I don't mind it. It doesn't.
This
taste. I think I've gotten used to it.
It tastes like grass cleans. It's just a little bit strong for. Yeah.
I don't.
So I've asked for mint.
Nice.
Yeah, he's like, I can give you raspberry or marshmallow flavour. Because they cover kids. If you go to a compounding pharmacist for liquid version of a tablet, they they can put some flavours over it as well, but he's like, I don't think many of them's going to cover the flavour.
Yeah.
Like, I know that, but it's grass. It's...
always got to drink candy to wash it back.
Yeah, you do a taster.
I think because I know when I have it, I know that it's going to help. So I'm like, it's fine. But it doesn't really bother me. But in case it helps people, I mean, obviously there's so many different, and not all doctors are really knowledgeable either. Even though all doctors can prescribe it, they're not educated as much as they'd like to be. So they don't necessarily know what they're prescribing. So I use one that's called Althea Capilano, which is brilliant for pain. But again, that's 50-50. It's half CBD with the protective agent and half THC to really hit my pain hard.
And they work as adjuvants to each other as well. So if you were just taking one, you wouldn't get anywhere near the benefit of taking one and taking another. It's the two of them together actually enhance each other as well. So there's a lot we don't know. Obviously it's breaking down a plant into, two products, but it's not just those two chemicals, it's all the ones hanging around it. I have heard people talk about some other medications, low dose naltrexone, people have mentioned for pain relief, but there's not a lot of people who do it. There's not a lot of research. I don't have experience of it myself.
I don't either.
I don't take any supplements just for it. Some people swear by fish oil. I'm not convinced that it makes a lot of difference. Some people, I've heard turmeric and curcumin.
Yeah,
and the capsicum one, capsicum, that comes out of hot chilies and things like that. So
okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't have bad enough pain that I've looked into it.
There are a lot of other alternative pain relief therapies that are sort of becoming more, and I would love to. I do know somebody who is heavily involved in. Again, this is like, I don't know enough to talk about it, so I won't really. But psychedelics and them being microdosed as a medication, that's something that people are looking at having that become available, like medicinal cannabis. I don't know enough to talk about it. It'd be actually really good to get someone to come and have a talk, and I do have a friend who is quite knowledgeable on that, so maybe we can work that out, because it'd be really interesting to know what that works on, even though it's not legal. I'd love to know what receptors it's working on, and microdosing things like magic mushrooms and all of those things. But there's so many different therapies that will become available one day.
Well, that's where ketamine came from. I mean, ketamine is used, it's used on animals, but people were experimenting with it, as people tend to do, and discovered they get absolutely high off it, but it also reduces pain and PTSD, flashbacky symptoms. So there's something going on, and that's why, with severe pain, that's where that came from. I've heard of people using LSD for managing PTSD and for veterans as well. So maybe in the future they'll be a bit more open to it. A lot of people use alcohol. It's legal, but it's very damaging. But for some people, they do use it to cope with the pain as well. Some people won't eat some foods or will eat other foods because for them it makes like the inflammation kind of diets and all of those things I think are very personal. Some people swear by it, going to a naturopath, Chinese herbalist, all of those different modalities as well.
Yeah. Just seeing, I've got a few comments here. Karen said to manage her pain, for her daily pain, for different areas and causes, if I stop, that's when I notice it most. I agree. Once I stop for the day, I know that if I just keep pushing, or once I stop, I'm stopped, and pain, I really notice my pain. So I do agree, Karen. She distracts, puts music on, keep busy, so don't deal with it. Tablets are a last resort, as they're strong and give me severe nausea when I take them. heat packs on worst affected areas help the most once I sit down at the end of the day. Endep didn't work for me. I take Diaz or Temaz at night when needed. Diaz, I'm assuming you mean diazepam, which has saved my anxiety this last week or something, but I went to my doctor. I said, please help me. Because I'm losing my mind.
Yeah. And I think things like that, sometimes, you know, it's a chicken or egg. Pain certainly won't help. If we can give you something to calm the anxiety, will that help? There are times when I just want the pain to stop. And if you said, you know, you have to walk across coals, or you have to only eat this food, I'm like, yep, sure, sign me up, because it can be quite debilitating. I do know some people take baclofen. Is quite common, particularly if they've got spasticity in their muscles. And a friend of mine's actually just had a baclofen pump. So it sits in next to their kidney, and it's like an epidural into their spinal cord, and they have a baclofen pump. They've got cerebral palsy. So that's a spasticity causing pain. I have the fun of having one side that has very low muscle tone. So my left side is the droopy foot drop. That's the side I get, like the draggy leg when I'm incredibly tired. But my right side, I get spastic twitches and spasms and all of those things. So like if I take a drug for one thing, I can't just go only work on this side of my body. So that can be difficult as well. So sometimes topicals will work as well. Magnesium, I have a magnesium rub that I use when all the spasticity is really bad. Some people swear by taking magnesium as well orally, so that might also be something. Yeah,
my partner said that I should just start taking that too.
Yeah.
But I do have a magnesium rub that I actually forget to use. It's one of those things that I do forget about. I actually bought it when I was pregnant because I had terrible cramps in my calf muscles when I was pregnant, to the point where I thought, I'm never returning from this. I'm never going to get my leg back. It was so awful, but that's what the rub was for. But it does help. And I think just having that pressure as well, to have, you know, I guess it's that massage feeling, and heat also helps with pain.
Do you find heat works, or cold? Because some people swear by
cold doesn't
ice
work.
pack on something.
For me, cold, no. Heat, yes, I do. Heat does help me. I often have a heat bag, and I'll the pain is worse for me. It's a bit like yours. It's deep to the bone. So from sort of knees down, it feels like all of my bones are just aching and throbbing. I can just feel them throbbing. It's like I can picture it, you know, and right down into my ankles, into the tops of my feet. And it's so bad, you know, and I can barely keep my legs still because it's just so painful. So I will lay a heat bag over the top of my legs, and it does help. And whether or not the warmth distracts me from the pain, I'm not sure, but it does help short term. But once the heat bag isn't hot anymore, I feel that pain come straight back. So it's a very short term relief, and then I've got to keep getting up to microwave my heat bag and come back. But I used to have, which I do need to get, you can buy electric heat bags. Have you seen them?
No.
So they're electric, and I just had it plugged in next to my bed, and you sit it in there, it clamps on, and it just charges, and it just clicks off when it's hot, and you just unplug it and put it on. I have to. You can get it from any chemist. They're just little electric. They're not expensive either. So
I'm available for one of those. Then. Yeah.
You'll be detouring on your way home.
That's right. What time is it? There'll be a pharmacy. It's funny though, because when people are diagnosed, and I know we've spoken about what we would have wanted when, you know, if I could go back, what I really needed at the time was someone to sit with me and go, it's hard, it's a journey, but you're going to be okay. And that's what I really hope people get out of us talking together. But I do joke, and I do think sometimes we need to make like a little, like in Scandinavian countries, when you have a baby you get a box, and it's got like rugs and some clothes, and like it's all you need, and the box is the right size for a baby to sleep in. So if you don't have anywhere to put a baby, it's not the bottom drawer of the cupboard, or unsafe on the bed, or sleeping on a couch, or it's designed for that as well. But we could do that for MS people, and I'd be like, give them magnesium oil, we'd give them And one of these heat bags, that'd be amazing.
Maybe in our near future we can have some boxes available that you can order, and we can put them together with a little MS survival kit.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Another question, which is a really good one, as a partner of a person who has MS, is there things that we can do to support you while you're experiencing these types of pain? This is really important. So if there's people that are watching who have family who are living with not just MS, but any chronic pain or chronic medical condition, what can they do? In your experience, what helps you from those around you?
I think because the past year, my husband and I have spent a lot more time together than we previously had since I was diagnosed. Obviously, I've been working from home for 12 months and he's been at home as well. And he can tell, probably before I've actually worked out, that I'm not having a good day. Mm-hmm. And he will not, it's not patronising, but he'll just bring me a heat pack. And I think because it is always hand in hand, that it's usually a day when my executive function's a bit on the lower side, as well as having pain to deal with. And the idea of getting up, finding a heat pack, heating it up and making myself comfortable is just like 53 steps too far, and I'll just sit here and be in pain and be unhappy anyway.
Yeah.
And it's that just seeing that, like if I'm sitting there talking to him and I'm doing this with my hands, or if I'm rubbing it, he'll just drop my compression glove at my desk while I'm working, or he will say, yeah, I'll make you lunch or something, because doing things with my hands is painful. Mm-hmm. And it's challenging. I think giving me space and not going, are you having a bad day? Are you in pain? Are you okay? You look like you're like,
what's wrong?
Like, what's wrong? You're so grumpy. You must be, why don't you just go take 2 Panadol kind of thing. Sometimes I'm sure he's like, why don't you go and have a shower, darling? I'll make you a cup of tea sort of thing, mostly because I'm just being grumpy. I think it's hard for me to realise. Like, I don't sit there and go, oh, my shoulder hurts and that rib hurts and that hurts and I'm pretty sure I've got that and that is sore. Like, I don't sit there cataloguing. It goes on in the background.
Because it's constant.
And it's chronic.
Yeah.
It's been there today, it's been there last week, it'll be there next week. I think if it went away, I'd be lost. Not concerned, but I'd be a bit lost. I'd be like, oh, I have all this thinking space. For me it's that knowing a little bit before I do, but not being patronising and condescending about it, or also knowing that if I've got a big day at work, if I was going into the office, he will just say, do you have like a heat pack with you? What socks are you wearing? Because my feet get really sore if I'm on them. My feet hurt, not like I've been standing on my feet all day. They just, and there's some socks that I can wear that help that. Mm-hmm. And just being that prompt of, hey, why don't you go lie down for half an hour and I'll make lunch? Because that's, usually what I do is I'd make lunch and bustle around and unpack the dishwasher and do stuff. And if he says, like, I can see that you're going to struggle this afternoon, so that for me, but I think it's very personal, what that is, and the fact that we own, 10 or 12 heat packs, and I have a particular one for a particular day, that's also, he doesn't ever laugh when I say, no, I really want the purple one, or I've got like a neck-shaped one, and it's like, that's the one I need, so. Yeah. What about for you? What do you reckon helps?
It's really difficult because I think, like you mentioned before, that because it's constant. So approaching how I'm approached when I'm struggling, if somebody can tell that I'm not okay, that there's something going on, I think by asking what's wrong or is something wrong, just know that the chances are that I'm still having the pain that I've been having every day for the last however many years. So it's there. Just make that assumption that yes, you're struggling. Like you're saying, your partner will sort of go, I can tell. Kind of read the room. Just the pain. Although it's probably almost, I was going to say it's my fault, but I don't talk about my pain because it's just a part of who I am now, and it doesn't go away. So I manage quite well. I function pretty high. You know, I go to uni. I run around the kids all day. I genuinely don't stop. So I think because I don't express that I'm hurting or that I'm struggling, which that won't change. I'll always be that way, I think. People forget that I'm in pain or that I'm struggling. So when I get to the point where I go, when I voice my pain is really bad, know that the pain is really bad. And at that point, like you mentioned, have you taken Panadol? Or why don't you go and take Panadol? No, I haven't taken Panadol, or I haven't taken Nurofen. But it also, the thought of me getting up to go and look for that Panadol and that Nurofen, and then pour the drink to swallow those tablets with, and then come back, you know, heat up my heat bag, that's just too hard. You know, I know that I'm going to feel worse after that. So it's having to work myself around that. So maybe just go, can I get you a heat bag? Or, you know, do you need...
Or give me a water bottle and I'm going to that way.
Just, I think it's I don't like asking for help. So I'm not going to voice, I'm struggling, I need to do this, can you do this for me? I'm never going to change, and that's not in me to do that. So I think for those in my life, I'm never going to ask you for help. It's very rare. I'd be really struggling if I asked for something, I think. And when I do ask, when I do voice that something is wrong, it means I'm really at my absolute end, and I'm really not coping very well.
I'm a late announcer as well. If by the time I'm saying I can't do that because I'm having a bad day, and it's without emotions, like I'm not crying, I'm not having a full breakdown, but for me that is announcing that I'm actually at the end of my tether. But by the same token, how do you feel if you are having a mediocre day, but then you're going to go out with a girlfriend, or you're going to go on a really long drive and go wine tasting and have a really big day? How do you feel if someone goes, oh, is that a good idea?
That's a really difficult one, because it is a good idea. You know, if I think that I can't do it, I won't do it. I'll come up with, I probably won't say I'm not coming because I'm in pain, because people won't understand. And if I say I'm not coming because I've got really bad fatigue, they'll be like, well, have a coffee. You know, you'll be fine.
You'll be sitting down the whole time.
It's going to be so fun. That isn't something that is going to happen. So if I am not, I'll have an excuse as to why I can't go to something, and it won't be probably the truth, and that is that I'm just not coping. I forgot what the original Welcome to MS Brain. I forgot what your original question was.
Just how you would feel if someone, you know, questioned whether, if they could tell that you weren't like firing the best. But then you were going to go out and do something that looks to them like a tiring.
Oh, I actually think that's a good thing. Most of the time for me, I think that I would receive that, as long as it's approached respectively. Just, you know, I can tell that that you might be in a bit of pain today. Do you think you're up to going here? It's like, but not, do you think that you should be doing that? It's more, do you think that, you know, are you okay? Like, I think it's being genuine in how you ask, in that I really care and I'm really concerned about you. I'm happy to support you in what can we do to help you get there if that's what you want, and what can we do to help you make that easier and more comfortable, as opposed to, you know, just staying home. And it might be that I need to go, yes, okay, thank you for acknowledging I do really need to stay home, but I just couldn't bring myself to say it. But, you know, we're going to the beach today. It's going to be a bit of obviously carry all the stuff down there and go, are you sure you're up for that? I really want to go to the beach, but maybe could we go to the beach and go to a beach where I don't have to walk too far to get down there, where I don't have to lug all the stuff down there? Can we go to a drive-on beach so I'm not having to carry things or walk? There's, you know, just
I want to go to the beach, but that's all I'm going to be able to do today.
Don't expect me to do all the packing up and all that stuff too.
So when we get home, can we just leave everything in the car? I'll deal with it maybe Tuesday.
That unpacking of everything when you get home, and that's something that is just really difficult. But I think just asking and being really genuine in your concern, without it coming across as nothing worse than feeling like you're a burden. So
Absolutely.
if I guess if I ask for something, or I take or I accept help, then that help can't come back to bite me on the ass later. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and that goes for, like, you know, even when you go to uni and I have access plans and things like that, they can give you support and say, what do we need to support you? And you tell them what will support you, and they'll go, yes, you can have that. But it may come back and bite you on the ass in some other way. So it just has to be, if it's going to be help, it needs to be unconditional help without any catch behind it or any, you know, rebound of effect later.
Yeah.
But I think really communication is key for family members or friends to just genuinely sit down and ask and say, hey, what is it like for you? Tell me about what your day is like. Tell me, ask. You know, I'm not afraid to talk about it. In fact, it annoys when people edge around it or avoid conversation about it. So I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Normalise it. It's totally fine. It is who I am now. It's not that that I am I'm not just Jess with MS. I am so much more than that. But having MS is a part of who I am, and it always will be.
Yeah.
And it's actually made me who I am and who I plan to become. You know, it's changed my career, it's changed my perspective on life, it's changed everything in such a positive way that I'm not afraid to talk about it, and I'm not going to be upset if you ask me questions.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we will also be introducing, is that we want people to ask those questions that you might be afraid to ask. We will do a segment that's called, you know, a bit like a You Can't Ask That. So
yeah, I think we talked about it. It was on the ABC or SBS? ABC.
I can't remember.
It was on the television. And it had people who were drag queens. I saw one. There was an autistic people one that I caught, and was it people with Down syndrome?
Oh, they do. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it was an excellent, and there was literally like, the drag queens were like, well, what do you look like in real life? And I'm like, well, this is my real life. And it was an interesting thing of, Jess and I both had mine was done through quarantine, because people were asking questions. I'm like, oh, I don't know if you could ask that in polite conversation, but I'm happy to be an open book. If you want to know something and you couldn't ask it in polite conversation, or you're not involved in this at all except that you know someone with MS, you never know who it might help, that you are aware of how to ask a question. So we've got some doozies that we've been asked, and some of them are just quite amusing as well. And yeah, so next time we get together, we're going to have just a whole heap of suggestions. But if you've got a burning question you'd love to ask anonymously, you can PM or email us, and we will add it into our little bowl as well. Yeah.
No names will come from that.
No names will be used, or context or anything. So
I love that my partner has said, but what if your partner is stubborn and will just push through the pain most of the time? Which I did say, I do push through the pain most of the time, and I'm okay with that, because if I stop, most of the time what I'm pushing through is to either get through uni, which is important, but the biggest thing that I think that I push through when it comes to pain is being with my kids. I would suffer like crazy mum guilt. You know, even if I know it sounds crazy, but was to sleep in past a certain time, I wake up and then I instantly go, I send my daughter to childcare 2 days a week and my mum 1 day a week, and I've only got these few days, so get up and spend time and quality time, you know. So I will push through to do that, and that's what's important to me. So if there's, how can a partner approach them to get them to rest? So for me, it might be different for you or for other people, but resting for me isn't taking a nap or just laying in my bed by myself. Resting for me is being able to do what I want to do. That might be, playing a game with my kids, or sitting and cooking dinner together, or doing things with support rather than not being able to do them at all.
Yeah. And this is what I was thinking when you were describing, how you manage your pain as well. For me, I have things in my day that I don't have any choice whether I have to do them. Right? I have to get up and pee. No one can pee for me. I have to go to work. No one can go to work for me. And those things I don't get a choice about, whether I eat, whether I, there's things in my day that I don't have a choice whether I feed my pets. They rely on me. They need to be fed. And even on a bad day, there's still this base level of tasks on my life list that I don't have a choice. And what I think people on the other side or the outside see is that we have choice lists still. And I have a choice list of whether I stay up or whether I sit and make dinner or whether I say, no, I actually feel like making, that thing, or playing a game with my kids, or going for a walk, or taking them somewhere, or having a date with them. And what people often say is, yeah, you go and lie down and I'll do that. And it's like, I want to do some stuff. That's how I live my life. This other stuff is just like, I have to do it because the world will stop if I don't feed the cat.
Yeah.
They will come and tell me that they haven't been fed, or if I don't take the dogs for a walk. And that, it's not fair. Because people often will say, oh, it's fine, I won't catch up with you because I know you're tired. And it's like, I will quite happily drag myself zombie-like because I haven't been able to sit with you and have a coffee with you face to face. Or yes, I know I'm very tired, but I'm going to go for that bushwalk with you because that's what you and I were going to do. And I just want something that I enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And it can be really hard when some of the things, like I said, no one can go to work and do my job for me. And it is helpful to a point when someone says, I will pick your groceries up, or you pay someone to clean the house, do the gardening, and those things that you can do. But yeah, so I find it very hard when someone wants to take away the things that I want to do. And for me, resting might be, sitting in my chair and doing diamond painting with my older kid, and it takes a lot of setup, and then you have to pack it away as well because otherwise you get little bits of plastic all over the place. But that doesn't mean someone needs to say, go and lie down in your room and I'll shut the door and I'll take the kids out. It's like,
then you feel isolated.
Yeah, isolation and loneliness. We did touch on this in the beginning, didn't we? That loneliness is, I think, distracting. Karen mentioned that she distracts herself, and yeah, distracting can be that you watch TikTok about the best kitchen gadgets ever and then they're all not available in Australia anyway, but it's really interesting to watch. Or you see, how they build IKEA furniture and you're like, I never knew that. And an hour's passed and you haven't really thought about your pain or what's going on in my body, which bit of my central nervous system will be next, all of those things. So
I think it's really it's kind of when you talk about disability, and a lot, I'm doing a degree in disability so that we can support people, and one of the biggest things is not taking over because somebody appears that they can't do it, or because it may be difficult for somebody, doesn't mean that they shouldn't do it. Doesn't mean that you should take over. It doesn't mean that you should take that away from them. It just means, what can we do to make it accessible for them? And how can we alter that situation, or what can we provide you to make it easier? So it's really the same thing. It's making adjustments. And like I mentioned with the going to the beach, it's just changing that up a little bit to suit the person who's not coping as well as everybody else. Cooking, if somebody's, for me, I like cooking. I really enjoy it. I actually prefer cooking. I wish I could do it all the time, but it is really tiring, and it does hurt my hands and my wrists, and I'm standing there and my legs are aching and all of those things. And then there's the cleanup that comes after it. But maybe to have somebody do it with you, so if your partner comes and does it with you, or does the prep, cuts up everything and prepares everything, and then you do it. And that doesn't mean every day either, because I don't want my partner watching thinking that I want her to prep everything for me every day. And I don't mean that all the time. I just mean they're the adjustments that you make to just help somebody to be able to do what they love doing.
Yep.
I want to go for a walk, but no, I can't do that uphill one, or I might not be able to, you know, take 3 sand dunes up and down to get to the beach to do it. Just make things accessible and think and plan. We have to plan.
Yeah.
I have to plan. I plan everything that I do, because if I don't, then I'll come across something and then I'll end up pushing myself because I wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, in summer, I have to be prepared with water bottles and cooling towel and all that crap that I never needed before, and I often forget still. But if you don't plan, so maybe those around us might just have to if we know that we're doing something that may impact, or you can tell that your partner's struggling, go, okay, well, my partner really wants to do that, or my daughter or my sister or my brother or my friend really wants to do that. How can we alter it so that they can? I have a really good friend who when it was my birthday, I didn't want to, I was originally having people over for, you know, we're going to have a few drinks, and we're going to have quite a big night, and I would love to do that, because that's what I did for my birthdays prior to feeling like crap and becoming a mum. You know, that kind of changed everything. But in the end, we went to her house, and she'd set up, I got there, and she'd had a mat on the floor and all the paints, and bought some pots from Bunnings, and we sat and we painted, and we had a glass of wine and some food, and that was perfect. That was perfect for me because it was thoughtful. We were still doing something, we were still spending time together. It was not far from home, so I could drive and come home and sleep in my own bed. It was just thoughtful, you know, and they're the things I think that make a really big difference, and really they mean a lot to people. And that meant a lot to me. And I don't think she knows that really, but it really, really did mean a lot to me that she thought that hard, you know.
I think people looking at plans from a different context as well, using, like, shifting their perspective and saying, well, I know they used to be happy driving from one end of Adelaide to another and doing a thing at our house and then driving home. But let's say driving is really, really tiring for you. I actually really like driving. It doesn't bother me. It's not particularly tiring, but if I have to drive somewhere and do something big and drive home, I'm probably better off getting someone to share the driving, because I really want to do that thing. And if it's an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, my in-laws live a long way away from where we live now. We used to live 35-40 minutes from them, and now we're like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes away, because we're on the other side of town, like the whole other side of the city. So that means I can't go out for a day trip by myself. But that's okay, and we love visiting with them, but it just means that if we want to do something, like, it has to either involve a nap for me or sharing the driving with someone as well. And that means that it would be easier if other people could come and meet us halfway. But I'm never going to say that. I'm saying it now, but I'm never going to say, well, realistically, it's not going to happen for a full day. And it's just a different logistics now for me to do stuff. And I find sometimes that, I'll push myself because I really want to do something, and I don't want to think about the consequences. And the consequences may mean that I end up in bed for a day because I'm so tired and sore and everything. But it also, it's that fine line between, please don't always question when I'm going to do something not particularly sensible. But by the same token, don't be afraid to say, hey, you're looking a bit tired. Is there anything in today's plan that we can rearrange? Or can I pick you up? I know we were going to meet there for a show or for drinks or dinner, but can I pick you up? And it might just be, oh my goodness, thank you, yes, that would be... that would be really helpful.
Making things closer, I think, is a really big thing, and I like driving too, and I think if, when we need to go somewhere quite far away, it's nice. Often the drive there is normally fine, but then by the time it's all finished, that drive home is really, I don't know, for me, I like driving. I do like to drive, but so does my partner, so we often go like shotgun driving, And I like driving. I also like being the passenger, but I get really, because I suffer with nausea most of the time, so that is really hard as well. But you know, if where we were going, where we were meeting, or where we were going out for lunch, or where we were going wherever, if it was just a little bit closer, that's not putting other people out. I would never want to put other people out, but maybe just to have that conversation, say, hey, my family member's struggling with that, or it's a little bit far for this reason. How about we meet and go here, because it's a bit more central for everybody. You know, it's just making those negotiations without it being without the person having to go, please, can you please change it, or please, can we not go, or please, because then again, we're asking and feeling like a burden.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
And also, personally, and you may be different, and people listening may be different, but if you have already, as a group, made a negotiation and gone, well, rather than going to so-and-so's place, which is the furthest away from me, if we go and they have already gone, oh, how about we meet in the Nathan Park, because it's about half an hour for everyone, I'm actually probably less likely to pike on you as well.
Yeah.
Because I know everyone's made an effort even before they've made an effort. And that's not to say you have to make an effort for me to grace you with my presence, but I'm even more inspired because I really don't want to be a burden, and I don't want to be the killjoy all the time. To go, I know we had plans to go to the gardens today, but it's 35 degrees and I'm non-functional because it's just too hot for me.
Yeah.
Or I'm having a really bad day with pain, I'm going to have to take a lot of time and I'm going to have to like not move much because it's really painful. I mean, I'm having a really bad day. I don't want to constantly go, you know, how are you today? Oh, I'm having a bad day, I'm really tired, I'm in a lot of pain. Like, that's really boring. It's really boring for me. It's really boring to say, and it's also, I don't need to think about that, you know. But if I'm saying, yeah, maybe I can meet you for maybe an hour if I can find a park.
Yeah.
That's code for me saying the idea of me having a park and walk up Kintua Avenue and through Rundle Mall to, that's probably not going to happen. So,
have to say though, those electric scooter things are amazing.
I want one.
They're so good.
Yeah, I've been seeing them around a lot in the city now because I'm working back in the city 2 days a week, and I've been seeing people with them. And I haven't tried one in the city. I've tried them up and down the Esplanade at Semaphore, and but no, I haven't tried it in the city yet. But just the idea of not having to walk.
It makes it so much more accessible. Because when we went to the city, we don't go there very often. And we were going to the Fringe, and we were staying in a hotel in the city, and it was not heaps far, but it was for me at that point. You know, it was, if I had walked it multiple times to get to different shows and whatever, it would have really ruined my weekend, and by the end of the weekend I would have paid for it. But these, like, it was so much fun, and I thought I was going to have issues. I thought that like the balance would be really hard. It took me not too long to get the hang of it, but it didn't throw my balance off, didn't make me feel weird. It was really great. I think they're one of the best things.
Didn't get motion sickness.
Not at all. I had in fact, by the end of the night, I was just riding it for fun. I was like, let's not put them back, let's just go right around.
Do you pay for like an hour, or do you pay by how far you go? Or?
Yeah, so you download an app, and it just sort of clocks it a bit like a taxi, but it's so much cheaper. So I think we went, we might have cruised around. I don't know whether it was by kilometres or time, I'm not actually sure, but it was really cheap. I think it was like $7, and we cruised around, back and forth around, and it was great, totally worth it.
Because I've discovered with U Park in the Adelaide City Council area, you get 2 free hours of parking 52 times a year. If you register if you've got a disability parking permit, and we will touch on that at some point about very mixed feelings about having one of those. But 2 hours of free parking with U Park in Adelaide. I see in Victoria they're now moving to have a state-based disability permit system. Currently you have to nominate different councils, and they all have different processes, and I didn't realise that because I've only ever had one in South Australia. And you apply and you get one. But in other states it's by council, and if you go to a different council there's different rules, and if you don't have the right one for the right council you get fined, and yeah, so that was, yeah, but the U Park that's nearest to my work is still nearly a kilometre away. And I was like, but if I had one of those scooters, I'd be able to just zip and
try it.
yeah, I could be a lot more mobile. I'll have to try it.
It's really great. Well, I'm just looking at, we've been going for about an hour and a half or so.
Yeah, do you have any questions that are outstanding on our...
No, we've got, Nisha said that she, obviously when we were talking about chronic pain, that people should never assume or make a decision for a person that suffers from chronic pain. So that's agreeing with sort of what we're talking about, which is...
Yeah, thank you. That's a good...
Yeah, but no other questions. So next fortnight we'll we'll answer the questions that you have been afraid to ask, whether it's anonymous or not. We will just make it anonymous is what we'll do. So whatever questions come through that are for, maybe just say this is for the jar, or for you can't ask that, and we will just leave your name out automatically.
So let's be real, I struggle with names, so it's probably easier
we'll
to
just
not
pick them
have
out
names.
the jar and go, this is the question. We won't even write a name on there, but we will make sure that we answer it on next fortnight. Provided, I don't think we're going to end up with 55 questions, so we'll be okay to cover them, I think.
And we might do some research into what an MS hug is.
We will continue to do that.
Yeah. But awesome. Great to chat with you as always.
Yeah. Thanks for coming a little bit further today.
Yes, that's okay. That's okay.
We'll make
and
this
thank you again to Lisa for managing our technical.
Yes, and setting up our logo. Very creative.
And the intro music.
You've seen our little intro music. We've got like a wait 5 minutes. You'll be able to see us coming on live. It's so much better. So thank you to Lisa for that. But
excellent.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining in the conversation too. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah. See you in a couple of weeks.